Nicodemus here. On today's episode, I wanted to ask you because for me, I always think like, what can I do to hear the Holy Spirit better? What can I do to like really tune in and make sure I'm listening to the right voice?
Yeah, I get this question a lot, actually. It's one of the most, it's a question that's asked often by students over the years. And I'll read some stuff from the course. I think, the quick answer to this is we have to look at the things that we put in the way of hearing the Holy Spirit. So if you think of the Holy Spirit like a voice in your mind, and I don't mean a voice like you're going to hear the heavens part and it says, Nicodemus or Chris, or it's not going to say like, listen to me. It's not like that. Now, some people could be like that, but for most people, it comes as thoughts. It comes as a feeling. It comes as images, maybe some pictures you see, like where the Holy Spirit's guiding you. So I think the biggest thing, if I was going to answer this question with one thing, I would say that it's our attachment to the world that gets into the way of actually hearing the Holy Spirit. Because think about it, if I have a way that I want an outcome or the way I think something should be, I'm already putting my judgment on it, which then closes off hearing another possibility, which is what the Holy Spirit's always presenting to us. So one of the things from chapter 5, section 2 that the course says is that the Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. I love these two lines that the distinction Jesus makes in the course. He says, the Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. God is not in you. You are part of God. So the distinction that's made in the course is that the Holy Spirit is in our minds in a very literal sense. That's why you hear me on the channel talk so often of go to the Holy Spirit. People ask me all the time in classes, what should I do? I don't know. You should go to the Holy Spirit. Ask the Holy Spirit, because if the Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense, you always have access to that teacher, to that voice. In the course, he calls the Holy Spirit the comforter, the therapist, the teacher. So I want to read this to you about the Holy Spirit. This is from chapter 5, section 2. It says the principle of atonement or healing, you could substitute that word atonement at one meant, right? Talks about atonement distinct from Christianity atonement, like we're atoning for sins. But the atonement is the awakening, the healing. So the principle of atonement and the separation began at the same time. So think about this for a moment. What he says throughout the course is that the moment that the separation from God began, or that we believed in it, there was an answer to that was given by God. Even though God knows nothing of separation, it makes no sense in heaven. The answer to that is the voice for God, the Holy Spirit. So it says the principle of atonement and the separation began at the same time. When the ego was made, God placed in the mind the call to joy. And the call is capital C, call to joy, which is the call of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit's always calling us to joy. This call is so strong that the ego always dissolves at its sound. That is why you must choose to hear one of two voices within you. One you made yourself, the ego, and the one is not, one you made yourself, and that one is not of God, but the other is given you by God, who asks you only to listen to it. The Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense. His is the voice that calls you back to where you were before and will be again. It's possible even in this world to hear only that voice and no other. It takes effort and great willingness to learn. So a couple things here in the answer to this question is it takes effort and a willingness to learn. Now, what's the effort? The effort is the willingness to learn is in the undoing of all the things that hook us into the world. Because what happens is if you look at things like our compulsions, our addictions, things like that, that constantly are pulling us into the world, the need for specialness, seeking out pleasures of the body, and all these things that we do very often. People that are using the body or chasing after things in this world, if you talk to them, I've worked with many of them over the years, it's almost like they get hazy in their consciousness. That voice of the Holy Spirit that Jesus is talking about in the course, and really as in the Bible as well, is comes from this, number one, this willingness and effort. A couple things around effort. Obviously I'm not a Bible scholar, but I do believe that this is the reason that, Jesus fasted, that, the talks of throughout the Bible of celibacy and and these things. Because why? What do? They give us the ability to pull back the attachment to the body and the world that hooks us in, that makes it hard to hear the Holy Spirit. I mean, if you think of Jesus in the desert, 40 days, 40 nights in the Bible, right? And with Satan, the opponent, comes to him and is like, listen, I'll give you this whole kingdom. All you have to do is sacrifice your connection to God, your connection to the Holy Spirit. So that's all of us, because the ego is always trying to seduce us. In India, they would say that the Maya, the illusion, is so seductive, it pulls us in. Well, our effort and the willingness comes to say, you know what, I'm willing to see the world another way and all the things I think I want and all the desires, all that stuff. I want to learn to hear the Holy Spirit. And I want to learn to hear the Holy Spirit so exclusively that nothing gets in the way. Because I really believe that's the teaching of the Christ. That's what Jesus and all the great masters, talked about, is an awakening to where you only hear that voice. And I'll read you something else too. It's actually from my lesson today. And the lesson today, this is lesson 188. The peace of God is shining in me now. I love this. It says, sit quietly and close your eyes. The light within you is sufficient. It alone has power to give the gift of sight to you. Exclude the outer world, is what we're saying. Exclude the outer world and let your thoughts fly to the peace within. They know the way. For honest thoughts, untainted by the dream of worldly things outside yourself, become the holy messengers of God himself. This is a really crucial point, and it further drives home what we're talking about, is that if you sit quietly, close your eyes, the light within you is sufficient. The Holy Spirit is in you in a very literal sense, and that is sufficient, that light. It has the power to give gift of sight to you. Exclude the outer world. And I love this line, let your thoughts fly to the peace within. They know the way. For honest thoughts, untainted by the dream of worldly things outside yourself, become the holy messengers of God himself. And this is my experience, is that when I'm not attached to and being pulled to things in the world, my thoughts, this is my experience, they go free. And if you look at anyone who's ever, let's say, created really great things, not anyone, but most people, if they've created extraordinary things in their life, they'll say that the thought came to them. It came from outside of them. Even Einstein, or theory of relativity, came to him, right? It's like when we tune in, it comes to us. Well, those intuitions, those thoughts, it might be the next song you hear. It's just following, getting quiet enough and disconnected enough, or detaching from the world, if you will. Better word than disconnection. Detaching from the world, what you start to realize is that the Holy Spirit can communicate to you in so many different ways. Like you say, the next song you hear, you just have a thought, you think of someone, you send them a loving message, you're constantly being communicated to. And if we understand that God is always communicating to us, then it really comes down to how good of a listener are we? How good of a listener? What have we put in the way of actually hearing that voice? And it really comes down to the effort and the willingness is to clean the altar of our minds so that that voice gets easier and easier to hear. It might sound philosophical right now as I'm talking to you about it. Go try it. It just starts simple. The things maybe you're like, I don't know what to do in this situation. Say a prayer. Ask for guidance. Get really quiet. See if you could surrender the outcome and just be like, what do you want me to do? And then start to lean into or feel, oh, that feels right. Oh, you know what? That's what I should do. And you'll start to get better and better where you're just certain that's what you're supposed to do and you won't even question it. So start with the things of your day. Start with the things you're maybe confused about or struggling with. Start to develop that relationship. Because as the Course says, the Holy Spirit's in you in a very literal sense. And just like, think about this. If you remember growing up, when we had a crush on someone that we liked, it was very easy to think about them. Even maybe as we got older, fell in love and got married, it's very easy to think about our spouses or the people that we love, our children, the people in our life. It's the same thing with the Holy Spirit. When you start to keep your mind on the Holy Spirit, you'll find so many opportunities to tune in and listen, and you'll start to see that you're being guided every moment. So give it a shot and really try it in your own life and start to develop that muscle of communication and see for yourself.